For 17 years, the world watched a masterclass in narrative control. Expensive lawyers silenced critics, public relations firms polished every statement, and lawsuits were weaponized to bury anyone who dared to question the official version. Kate and Jerry McCann built a fortress around themselves, an impenetrable wall where no contradiction seemed able to enter. But they made a fatal calculation error. They forgot that the weakest link in any family conspiracy isn't the police nor an external suspect. The weakest link is always the one who loves too much to lie coldly. The flaw in the perfect crime wasn't a forensic trace left on a window. It was the broken heart of a mother speaking into a reporter's recorder. We know the rehearsed script sold to us. May 2007, Praia da Luz. The idyllic setting for two respectable doctors, pillars of British society, to enjoy a well-deserved break. The official story paints a picture of absolute victimhood, devoted parents who did everything right, struck by a blow of fate in the form of a phantom predator emerging from the darkness. We saw the candlelight vigils, the stoic faces on television, the global appeal. Everything was designed to be a saga of resilience, a crusade of two heroes against an invisible monster. We were conditioned to believe that their pain was the only proof needed of their innocence, and that any hard question was an insult to the missing girl's memory. However, that is the sanitized version that Grace's magazine covers. We are not here to read the headlines. We are here to read the footnotes they tried to erase. You are watching this because you feel deep down that something in this manufactured perfection doesn't hold up. You are part of an intelligence network now. Our agents are already operating in dozens of countries, analyzing the noise the media ignores. I need to know the extent of our surveillance grid today. From which city are you connecting to access Operation Black Box? Declare your location in the comments. Let them see that while they have ad agencies, we have an army of attentive observers. Now, let's unlock the file. What I'm about to reveal to you today changes the gravity of everything we thought we knew. What if I told you that the confession the world has been waiting for nearly 2 decades has already happened? It wasn't signed in a police station under pressure. It didn't come from a secret wiretap. It came from the grandmother, Susan Healy, Kate's mother. In a desperate attempt to defend her daughter's honor and justify the unjustifiable, ended up becoming our Trojan horse. The thesis we will prove today is devastating. Susan Healy's maternal love was the force that sabotaged the McCann's legal defense. Over the years, in interviews laden with guilt and a need for atonement, she let slip fragments of truth that directly contradict the "we were not at fault" narrative sustained by the couple. We are opening the black box, our definitive archive of suppressed truths. Our mission is not to ask for the truth to appear. It is to leak the truth piece by piece, using the family's own words against them, until the lie becomes unsustainable. Susan Healy is not just a sad elderly woman. She is the unwitting guardian of the secrets Kate and Jerry cannot say out loud. She is the leak in the dam. And to understand the dimension of this rupture, we need to go back to the beginning, before the police even arrived at apartment 5A. We need to look at a specific admission of guilt, a phrase spoken by the grandmother that the family desperately tried to scrub from history, but which remains recorded forever as the first crack in the mask of innocence. To demolish this 17-year lie, we don't need complex conspiracies. We just need to look at the most banal object in apartment 5A, a metal shutter. The official story demands we believe a predator entered and exited through the window, but forensic engineering says otherwise. Those shutters were made of heavy metal. To be opened from the outside, brute force would be required, leaving visible leverage marks. The Portuguese police forensics were clear. The metal was intact, immaculate, no grooves, no scratches. More than that, there wasn't a single fingerprint of a stranger on the window. The only print found, positioned as if opening the window, belonged to Kate McCann herself. The crime scene doesn't show a forced invasion. It shows a set stage. The danger didn't come from outside. It was already inside. If the window is the physical flaw, the witnesses are the human flaw. The famous checking system every 20 minutes, which grandmother Susan Healy tried to defend as naivety, actually sounds like a rehearsed alibi. The times don't add up. And then we have the war of the witnesses. On one side, Jane Tanner, a friend of the group, who said she saw a man taking a child. This vision was used by the defense for years. On the other side, the Smith family, independent Irish tourists, who saw a man carrying a child toward the beach at 10:00 p.m. The description of the man matched Jerry McCann perfectly. The family and the media focused on Tanner and tried to bury the Smith sighting. Why? Because Tanner's vision pointed to a kidnapping. The Smith's vision pointed to corpse concealment. Faced with these contradictions, I summon Operation Black Box. What seems more suspicious to you, a window that defies physics, or the selective choice of which witness to believe? Leave your analysis in the comments. Every observation helps map the weaknesses of this narrative. While humans lied, science brought the irrefutable truth. When the police brought in Scotland Yard sniffer dogs, Eddie and Keela, the story changed. Eddie, the cadaver dog, didn't bark at the broken window. He barked furiously behind the living room sofa and at the wardrobe in the couple's bedroom. The animal signaled that a dead body had been there, but the final proof was in the car. A Renault Scenic rented by the McCanns 24 days after the disappearance. The same dog reacted to the trunk of this car. The DNA analysis done in Birmingham confirmed 15 out of 19 markers matched Madeleine. How did the scent of the girl's corpse end up in a car rented weeks after she was kidnapped? The window was intact. The witnesses saw the father. The dogs smelled death in the room and the car. Science screamed that a body was there and was moved. So, if the kidnapping story is a farce, what really happened that night? To answer this, we need to reconstruct the night of the crime based on evidence, not the fiction the family tried to sell. Erase the image of the predator lurking in the shadows. Eliminate the figure jumping out the window. Forget the man the police spent years looking for based on a sketch made from a false memory. To find the truth buried under layers of manipulation, we must have the cold courage to face the most likely scenario. The one logic screams, but the heart refuses to accept. The night of May 3, 2007, did not begin with an external invasion. It began with an internal collapse. Let's reconstruct the timeline based strictly on behavior, forensic traces, and the subtext of what the grandmother, Susan Healy, let slip. The clock reads 5:30 p.m. It is the last time anyone outside the inner circle sees Madeleine alive. The group is at high tea, the children's supper. Reports describe exhausted parents and restless children. On previous nights, Madeleine had cried. She asked, "Why didn't you come when I cried?" This question, which Kate McCann recorded in her own book, isn't just a child's lament. It is proof that the checking system was flawed and the children woke up distressed. To ensure tonight's dinner isn't interrupted by inconvenient crying, a decision must be made. Susan Healy said in interviews that her daughter and son-in-law were exhausted. The sedation theory isn't empty speculation. It is a known medical practice to regulate sleep. And we are dealing with two doctors who valued their social routine. Whether something was administered to induce sleep, or if it was just extreme fatigue compounded by negligence, the result is silence. It is 8:30 p.m. The McCanns leave for the tapas bar. The children stay. Apartment 5A plunges into darkness, but something goes off script. Madeleine wakes up. Perhaps disoriented by the effect of some substance, perhaps looking for the bathroom or the parents who left her again. She gets up. She walks in the gloom of the living room. And then, the accident happens. A fall from the sofa, a trip hitting her head on the corner of a table, or perhaps a fatal adverse reaction to unprescribed medication. The exact mechanism of death is secondary to the crime reconstruction. What matters is the final result. Eddie the dog told us where. Behind the sofa near the living room window. That is where life ends. Now fast forward to the moment of discovery. Kate or Jerry enters for the check. There isn't an empty bed. There is a body on the living room floor. The heart stops. Time freezes. An ordinary parent would call emergency services, scream for help, attempt resuscitation until exhaustion. But they are not ordinary parents. They are doctors. They know how to recognize clinical death instantly. And more importantly, they know how to recognize guilt. In this exact second, facing the lifeless body of their daughter, grief is run over by panic. The Hippocratic Oath collides head-on with the survival instinct. If they call the police now, the scenario is catastrophic. They left 3 children under 4 years old alone and unlocked. That is criminal negligence. If there are sedatives in the girl's blood, that is manslaughter, perhaps homicide. The rational mind calculates probabilities in milliseconds. They will lose their medical licenses. They will lose their careers. They will be imprisoned in a foreign country. And the final blow, British social services will revoke custody of the twins, Sean and Amelie. The McCann family will cease to exist. Their reputation, built with such zeal in the English upper middle class, will be incinerated. The decision is made. The monster didn't enter through the window. The monster was born in that instant, inside the psyche of two cornered parents. Madeleine didn't die. She disappeared. A corpse is a crime scene. A missing child is a tragedy that generates sympathy. The body needs to be hidden immediately. Where? In a temporary, cold, inaccessible location during the first hours of chaos. The wardrobe in the master bedroom, where the cadaver dog also signaled. Or perhaps a nearby external area, accessible via the patio, where it could stay until the dust settled. Chaos is then manufactured. The scream, "They've taken her," is the starting signal for the staging. The police are called, the resort is turned upside down, and crime scene contamination is guaranteed by the entry and exit of dozens of people. They bought time. But to understand how they sustained this, we need to dive into the psychology behind the mask. How can parents eat, sleep, and give interviews knowing their daughter is dead and hidden? The answer lies in cognitive dissonance and narcissism, something Susan Healy's words unwittingly expose. Susan described Kate in the following days as being in a trance state, almost catatonic. She attributed this to the pain of loss. But through the lens of our reconstruction, this state isn't just grief. It is traumatic shock and dissociation. Kate had to separate the mother who lost her daughter from the accomplice who needs to protect the family. People in high social status positions, like surgeons, often develop a frightening capacity for compartmentalization. They convince themselves the lie is a necessary evil. The internal rationalization sounds something like this: Madeleine is gone. We can't bring her back. But if we go to prison, the twins will lose their parents. We have to do this for the twins. This internal narrative transforms the concealment of a corpse into a twisted act of family protection. They cease to be the villains of their own story and become the guardians of the remaining children's future. The fear of public shame, the terror of losing status, is a more powerful motivator than the pain of grief for certain psychological profiles. They were no longer looking for a daughter. They were managing a public relations crisis. The coldness many noticed in interviews, the lack of real tears, the excessive focus on the timeline, these are all symptoms of someone working, not someone just suffering. And the grandmother, Susan Healy, in her brutal honesty, said, "We were naive." She tried to soften the negligence by calling it naivety, but deep down, she knew. The family's erratic behavior, the desperate calls to England before even calling the local police, all point to crisis management, not a desperate search. Susan saw her daughter break, but interpreted the break as pain, when in reality, it was the unbearable weight of a secret shared only by the couple. Stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and look at the picture we've painted. On one side, we have a ninja kidnapper who leaves no fingerprints, makes no noise, and carries a child without waking anyone. On the other, we have a tragic domestic accident, followed by a panic reaction from parents who had everything to lose, corroborated by sniffer dogs that detected death in the room, and by the grandmother's own declarations of guilt. I ask you, member of Operation Black Box, which of these scenarios resonates with the reality of human nature? The conspiracy of a perfect stranger, or human failure covered by desperate lies? Your intuition is a valuable forensic tool. Before I place the definitive technical proof on the table, I need your preliminary verdict. Does this reconstruction make sense to you? Do you think the fear of losing everything explains their behavior better than a kidnapping without evidence? Leave your verdict in the comments. Covered up accident or real abduction? Your agreement is the green light our operation needs to use our most powerful proof. Because the evidence I'm about to show isn't a theory. It is the proof that seals this case. If the accident and concealment theory is the architecture of the crime, we now need to present the getaway vehicle. And I'm not talking about metaphors. I'm talking about metal, rubber, and primarily biological data that Madeleine's grandmother could never explain away with naivety. The prosecution presents the smoking gun evidence, the Renault Scenic, license plate 59DA27. This car was not rented on the night of the crime. It was rented by Kate and Jerry McCann 24 days later, on May 27th. Why rent a car almost a month later? The official justification was transport for shopping, but the behavior of this car and what was found inside it tell a very different story. The Portuguese police, under the command of Gonçalo Amaral, realized the body could not stay in the temporary hiding place, likely in the rocks or vegetation near Praia da Luz, forever. The body would begin to decompose, the smell would attract attention, animals could find it. It was necessary to move it to a final location, far from the world's eyes, and it was exactly during this critical period, when media vigilance began to wane slightly, that the car was rented. And here science enters to destroy the alibi. Eddie, the same dog that detected death behind the sofa, reacted violently to the trunk of this Renault Scenic. Remember, the car only entered the family's possession almost a month after the disappearance. The defense tried to say the smell came from the girl's toys or clothes. They said she had touched those things before vanishing. But that explanation ignores basic biology. The cadaver dog doesn't react to the scent of a living person. It reacts to decomposition. And more importantly, the DNA found on the trunk carpet told the final story. Samples were sent to the FSS laboratory in Birmingham, one of the most advanced in the world. The result was an incredibly high DNA match, 15 out of 19 allele markers from Madeleine McCann's profile. To put this in perspective, the chance of it being anyone else is statistically zero. The DNA found wasn't saliva or sweat from a playing child. They were degraded bodily fluids, consistent with the transport of a body that was no longer alive. Where the intact window whispered that no one entered, the DNA in the car screamed that someone left, and that someone wasn't a stranger. The car was under the exclusive possession, total control, and sole surveillance of Kate and Jerry McCann. The image forms with terrifying clarity. The car wasn't contaminated by a dirty toy. The car smelled of death because it was used to transport death. They used the vehicle to move the body from the temporary hideout to a place where it would never be found, likely using the unexplained night trips recorded by the car's GPS. While Susan Healy gave interviews in England, saying the family was paralyzed by hope, the rental car was being used to ensure that hope never materialized. The grandmother spoke of naivety, but the car proved premeditation and logistics. You don't rent a car to transport a body by accident. You do it because you need to clean up the final scene. Science created an unbreakable link between the place of death, the apartment, and the means of concealment, the car. The dogs didn't bark at a ghost, they barked at the biological reality that humans tried to wash away. With the technical DNA proof in the car aligning perfectly with the biological proof of the dogs in the room and the behavioral proof of the grandmother's contradictions, the question ceases to be, what happened to Madeleine? We know what happened. She died in the apartment and was moved by her parents. The question that should haunt us now, the question that transforms this case from a police crime into a state scandal, is another. If the Portuguese police had the DNA in the trunk, if they had the dog's confession, if the window story was physically impossible, why were the handcuffs never used? The answer to that forces us to leave the dirt roads of the Algarve and enter the carpeted corridors of international diplomacy. Because when the truth became too inconvenient to be spoken, the system stopped seeking justice and started seeking silence. The conspiracy wasn't to kidnap a child. The conspiracy was to save the reputation of those who let her die. When the report from the Birmingham lab confirmed the presence of Madeleine's DNA markers in the trunk of the rental car, the gears of justice should have turned. In any ordinary police station, the convergence of a biological witness of death and a digital witness of movement would result in the immediate sound of handcuffs. Criminal logic is binary. If there are traces of a body in the vehicle, the owners of the vehicle need to explain the inexplicable in custody. But in the Madeleine McCann case, criminal logic was switched off and replaced by a much darker force, political convenience. What happened next wasn't an investigation failure. It was the success of a cover-up operation. The Portuguese judicial police had done brilliant forensic work. They cornered the suspects, but the red phone rang. British diplomacy didn't act to help discover the truth. It acted like a defense firm with diplomatic immunity. The message sent to the corridors of power in Portugal was subtle, but devastating. Don't touch them. The sovereignty of a murder investigation was trampled because the suspects weren't ordinary citizens. They were British doctors with government connections. And for this lie to survive, for the narrative of victimhood that Susan Healy helped sell to the papers to remain intact, The system needed a culprit, not the one who committed the crime, but the one who dared to investigate it. Gonçalo Amaral, the investigation coordinator, became the blood sacrifice demanded by the establishment. Amaral committed the cardinal sin of treating rich doctors as murder suspects. He followed the dogs. He read the DNA report. And as a reward for his integrity, he was executed in the public square. He was removed from the case days after making the couple official suspects. He was forced into retirement. He had his assets frozen and was sued tirelessly for years by the McCann family, who used the public donation fund to finance the destruction of the man who tried to solve their daughter's case. The lesson was brutal for any other police officer. If you follow the evidence against the powerful, your career will be incinerated. If this scenario makes your blood boil, if the idea that truth can be traded in closed offices causes you nausea, you are in the right place. This indignation you feel now is the fuel of our Operation Black Box. I call upon you to transform this anger into action. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. Don't look at this as a click, but as your official enlistment. We are the memory they cannot erase. The more we grow, the harder it gets for them to maintain the silence. Join the resistance. The inquiry was archived in 2008, not because they proved innocence, but under the false excuse of lack of evidence. A technical lie. The evidence existed. The DNA was there. The grandmother's contradictions were recorded. The dogs didn't lie. What was missing wasn't evidence. It was political courage to face the elite. Justice looked at the suspects' passports and bank accounts and decided to close its eyes. The system won the legal battle. They managed to silence the police and intimidate witnesses. But in the midst of all this institutional darkness, where money bought freedom, a final question remains, hovering over us like a toxic cloud. If they managed to do this under the global media spotlight, what does that teach us about the fragility of truth in our own world? And now that you know what is in the black box, what will you do with this truth? What reverberates in my mind now, as we close this chapter of the archive, is not just the coldness of the forensic data or the precision of the dogs. What really keeps me awake is the human tragedy behind the lie. My final conviction, the weight on my chest after analyzing every word spoken by Susan Healy, is that the true crime didn't end when Madeline's heart stopped beating. The real crime was the conscious choice to sacrifice a daughter's memory on the altar of reputation. They transformed the death of a child into a logistical problem to be solved. And the most painful part is realizing that the only truth that escaped didn't come from the parents' heavy conscience, but from a grandmother's inability to keep the mask on all the time. Susan tried to save her daughter, but ended up condemning the narrative. What haunts me is knowing that for this family, the public image was worth more than a dignified grave for their granddaughter. Faced with this brutal realization, I cannot carry this weight alone. This archive is only valid if there are witnesses. Therefore, I need you to go down to the comments section right now and leave your indelible mark on the history of this case. I don't want empty technical debates. I want your moral verdict. Use that space to record how you feel, seeing that the system protected the architects of silence. Your comment is a permanent signature in this dossier, digital proof that Operation Black Box is vigilant. I will read every testimony. For every voice, there is a brick in the wall we are building against oblivion. For those who understand that unearthing government-protected secrets requires more than just will, the doors of our command center are open. This operation is not funded by corporations. It is funded by the truth. There are two ways for you to ensure we continue breaking the locks. First, the Super Chat is open now. Look at this not as a donation, but as providing immediate ammunition for our investigation. It is the resource that allows us to access files, translate documents, and keep the light shining on the facts they want in the dark. Second, for those ready to level up and enter strategic intelligence, become a member of the channel. Members are our elite, the operators who have unrestricted backstage access. You see the evidence before the public release. Help triangulate the next targets and ensure the total independence of our voice. The Super Chat keeps the machine running today. The member subscription ensures it keeps running tomorrow. The decision of how to act is yours, but the necessity of your action has never been more critical, because our war against silence isn't over. Susan Healy was the breach in the family wall, but there is an outer circle that also knows the truth. The pact of silence involves not just the couple and the grandmother, It involves 7 friends who were at that dinner table. Thanks to the support of our operators, the next analysis is already underway. We will dissect the mathematical contradictions in the friends' alibis, proving it is impossible for everyone to be telling the truth at the same time. Ensure your subscription is active and the bell is on, for the next leak will be definitive. Truth is like water. It always finds a crack to seep through, no matter how hard they try to dam it up, and we will be that crack. Until the next update, the archive never sleeps.